In life, there are certain things that should be kept private, things that are crucial to your growth and success. What are they? Why is it so important to keep them to yourself? The truth is, intelligent people know that not everything needs to be shared with the world. Some things are simply too valuable to be exposed to outside opinions, distractions, or judgments. By keeping certain aspects of your life private, you protect your focus, your energy, and your vision. Today, we're going to talk about 10 things that an intelligent person keeps private at all costs. These are the things that shape your future, your success, and your personal growth. And if you want to achieve the life you desire, understanding why these things should remain your secret is key. So, why does it matter so much? Why not just share everything with the world? As we dive in, you'll understand how protecting these aspects of your life can actually be one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. Stick with me until the end, because the insights you'll gain today can transform the way you approach your goals, relationships, and ultimately, your future. Let's get started. Number 1, personal goals and ambitions. Personal goals are deeply personal. When you have something you're striving toward, a vision for the future, it's crucial to keep that to yourself until you're ready to share it. This doesn't mean you shouldn't talk about your dreams with close people you trust, but it does mean you should be careful who you open up to. Most people don't fully understand what it takes to achieve a big goal, and sharing your aspirations too early can invite unnecessary opinions that aren't helpful. Think about the things you're working toward, whether it's starting a business, getting in shape, or achieving a particular milestone in your career. You've got this picture in your mind of where you want to be. But the journey to get there is often messy, filled with challenges and sometimes uncertainty. When you let too many people in on those early stages, it can be easy to get discouraged or distracted. Some people might not get it, or worse, they'll tell you why it's not possible. And if you listen to them, you might just talk yourself out of your own dreams. What happens when you keep your goals private is that you create space for growth and focus. You're less likely to be swayed by external voices, whether they're doubting you or giving advice that doesn't align with your vision. It allows you to build momentum in the direction you want to go, without the burden of having to explain every step you're taking. People around you might not even know what you're working toward, and that's okay. The important part is that you're keeping your attention where it needs to be on your own development and progress. You don't need to broadcast your plans to the world, especially when you're in the early stages. It's important to have a clear vision, but the path to that vision is yours to figure out. If you share your goals too much, you'll begin to feel the pressure of expectations from others. It can lead you to doubt your own ability to move forward. Every goal takes time, and the road to success is full of unpredictable turns. If you let the noise around you get too loud, it can make it harder to focus on the actions you need to take to achieve what you're after. Think about it. When you announce your big plans too soon, it can make the whole process feel like it's under a microscope. Every decision, every move you make can be scrutinized by those who don't understand what you're trying to do. This adds a layer of stress that isn't necessary. You might start feeling like you're failing before you've even had a chance to build any real progress. In the beginning, there's often a lot of trial and error. You're figuring out what works and what doesn't, and not everything you try is going to succeed the first time. When your goals are still forming, you need the space to experiment and grow without worrying about the opinions of others. If you're trying to get in shape, for example, it can be hard to stick with a routine if you've already told people what you're doing and they start questioning or critiquing your progress. It's easier to stay motivated when you're not constantly explaining yourself. Your goals are like the seeds of a plant. In the beginning, they need a lot of care and attention before they can grow strong enough to stand on their own. If you expose those seeds to the elements too soon, they might not have a chance to fully develop. It's the same with your goals. Keep them protected, nurture them in silence, and only share them when they're ready to stand tall on their own. There's also a lot to be said for the power of surprise. When you keep your ambitions private, you have the freedom to work without any expectation from others. Then, when the results start to show, they're much more powerful. It's inspiring for people to see someone achieve something they've been quietly working on. They can't offer opinions when they don't know what's coming. It allows you to let your success speak for itself. Another reason to keep personal goals private is the risk of others imposing their own beliefs onto yours. We all know people who think they know the right way to achieve something, and their advice can often be limiting. If you share your goals too early, you open the door for other people's suggestions, which might not align with your own values or vision. You may find yourself second-guessing the very things that initially excited you. This kind of distraction can pull you off track. Your journey is unique to you, and only you can determine what's best for your growth. Keeping your goals private also creates a sense of accountability within yourself. You're doing this for you, not for the validation of others. Your motivation comes from within. When you don't rely on external approval, you develop a stronger sense of discipline and focus. You're more likely to follow through because you're not concerned with whether or not anyone else approves of your actions. Privacy also protects you from the self-sabotage that can come from comparison. When you share your goals with too many people, it can be easy to compare yourself to others, especially those who might already be further along than you. This can make you feel inadequate or like you're not doing enough. The comparison trap is real, and it can be a huge. If you keep your goals private, you eliminate that outside pressure to compete or measure yourself against someone else's timeline. Having personal goals is an empowering thing, but that empowerment gets diluted when you let too many people into the process too soon. Your goals are yours to chase, and the pace at which you chase them is something only you should decide. When you're in the thick of it, the journey can feel long and challenging, and the last thing you need is to constantly defend your choices to others. Protect the sacredness of your personal mission and focus on the work. People often tell you to share your dreams because they think it will help you feel supported, but what it really does is create an expectation that others can't fully understand. In many cases, those people mean well, but their intentions might not always line up with your needs. In fact, the less you share, the more clarity you have to think for yourself, make mistakes, and learn along the way. The most powerful thing you can do for your goals is to keep them private, nurture them in silence, and let them grow at their own pace. By the time you're ready to share, you'll be well on your way to achieving what you set out to do, and the world will be amazed at what you've accomplished. Until then, keep your goals close to your heart and give them the space to grow without the interference of others. Number 2, financial status. Money is a topic that can stir up a lot of emotions. For some, it brings feelings of security, excitement, and freedom. For others, it might be a source of stress or anxiety. The point is how much money you have or don't have is your personal business. It's not something that needs to be shared with the world. People often make the mistake of talking too much about their financial status, whether it's bragging about what they have or complaining about what they don't. Both extremes create unnecessary distractions. The truth is, your financial situation is yours to handle. People can't truly understand your financial journey unless they are walking in your shoes. Sharing your income, savings, and financial goals can open the door to opinions that aren't helpful. Some might try to tell you how to spend your money. Others might criticize your choices. Or worse, judge your worth based on your bank account balance. These opinions can lead you to question your own decisions and get caught up in unnecessary comparison. You don't need to give others the power to influence how you view your financial path. When it comes to money, it's easy to fall into the trap of talking about it too much. You might want to impress others or seek validation, but the more you talk about your finances, the more you open yourself up to others' opinions, and that can cloud your judgment. An intelligent person understands that financial security and success come from careful planning, discipline, and consistency, not from public approval. Your money is a tool to build your future, not something that should be shared for the sake of attention. If you have money, people might have expectations of you, expectations that could lead to pressure. They might assume you have an endless supply or that you're willing to share whenever they need something. It's crucial to maintain boundaries when it comes to finances. There's nothing wrong with being generous when you choose to be, but you don't owe anyone an explanation of how much you have or how you choose to spend it. The more you reveal, the more you expose yourself to outside influences that could steer you off course. If you're not doing well financially, talking about it can often bring unwanted pity or advice that you didn't ask for. People might want to fix your situation, but they don't understand the full picture. What works for one person might not work for you. And unsolicited financial advice can add to your stress rather than alleviate it. The best way to handle financial challenges is to focus on your own plan and work towards solutions without the weight of others' judgments or suggestions. There's a lot of power in keeping your financial status private because it allows you to focus on what truly matters, making wise decisions, building your wealth, and creating financial freedom. When you don't share your financial situation, you're free from unnecessary distractions that could derail your focus. You can concentrate on taking small steps toward improvement without being influenced by people who don't have the same financial goals or challenges. Whether you're just starting out or already on your way to financial success, the fewer people who know about your finances, the more peace you'll have to make the right decisions. Financial privacy also gives you control over your own narrative. When you don't share your financial status, you don't have to explain your spending habits or justify your choices to anyone. You don't have to worry about someone criticizing you for buying something you want or questioning why you're saving money rather than spending it. Every choice you make is personal, and by keeping your finances private, you ensure that those decisions remain in your control. People often think they know what's best for you when it comes to money, but the reality is only you know what's truly important for your financial future. Keeping your financial status private also protects you from the temptation to compare yourself to others. Social media is a prime example of how people constantly share their successes, whether it's a new car, a vacation, or a house hand. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparing your financial situation to someone else's. But the truth is, you don't know the full story behind someone else's finances. They might be struggling with debt, living paycheck to paycheck, or simply projecting an image of success that isn't reality. The less you focus on others' financial situations, the more you can stay focused on your own. It's not just about protecting yourself from others' opinions. It's also about protecting yourself from the temptation to feel like you need to keep up with the Joneses. When you constantly talk about your financial status, you might find yourself feeling pressured to live up to others' expectations or standards. This can lead to unhealthy financial habits, such as spending beyond your means or trying to impress others with purchases that aren't truly aligned with your goals. Financial privacy allows you to stay grounded in your own values and priorities. You can set your own goals, decide what's important to you, and build a life based on your own definition of success. When your finances are kept private, you remove the external noise and create space for clarity. You can think about what's truly necessary for your well-being in your future without worrying about the judgment of others. It's also important to recognize that money is a sensitive subject for many people. Talking too much about finances can make others feel uncomfortable, especially if they're going through financial struggles of their own. It can create a divide between you and others, even if that's not your intention. People might feel embarrassed, envious, or resentful when finances are discussed too openly, which can strain relationships. By keeping your financial situation private, you show respect for others' circumstances, whether they're doing well or facing challenges. Sometimes people can be judgmental, even without realizing it. You might feel like you need to explain why you're making certain financial decisions or why you're choosing to save instead of spend. But the truth is, your finances are your business, and no one else's opinion should influence how you handle your money. Financial decisions should come from a place of careful thought, not from trying to impress others or seeking approval. There's a lot of freedom that comes with keeping your financial status private. It allows you to live your life on your own terms without constantly worrying about what others think. When you remove the pressure of sharing your finances with others, you free yourself to make decisions based on your own needs, not the expectations of those around you. Money should never be a tool for comparison, nor should it be a source of stress. When you keep your financial status private, you eliminate the pressure to measure up to anyone else. You are free to focus on your own financial goals and create the life you truly want, based on your own values, priorities, and timeline. In the end, financial privacy is a powerful way to protect your peace, your focus, and your ability to create lasting success on your terms. Number 3, family matters. Family matters are something most people care deeply about, but they don't always need to be discussed openly with the world. While it's natural to love and care for your family, sharing personal family matters with others can sometimes lead to complications. Everyone's family dynamic is different, and no one else can truly understand the full picture of your relationships and experiences. When you open up too much about family issues, you risk inviting unwanted opinions or judgments that could make things more difficult for you. Family is the foundation of who you are. The relationships with the people closest to you shape your values, your beliefs, and your sense of self. However, those relationships are complex, and sometimes the dynamics can be challenging. When something is difficult at home, it's easy to get caught up in talking about it, especially when emotions are high. But airing out family matters too freely can often do more harm than good. The problem with talking about family matters is that you invite others to judge a situation they might not fully understand. They don't live with the same people or experience the same struggles. They only see things from their own perspective, and that perspective can lead to advice that doesn't fit your reality. Family is sacred, but it's also personal. There are things that you and your loved ones go through together that are only meant to be understood by you and them. When you start discussing family issues with too many people, you run the risk of distorting the situation. Others can't see the nuances of family relationships the way you can. What might seem like a small issue to one person could be a big deal to you. When you open up about family matters, it's important to remember that what you're sharing might be taken out of context or misunderstood. There's also a vulnerability in sharing family matters with others. Sometimes people can't help but offer advice, even when it's not wanted. They might think they know what's best for you or your family, but they don't truly understand your circumstances. Unsolicited advice can sometimes feel like criticism, and that criticism can add stress to an already difficult situation. When you're going through something challenging with your family, the last thing you need is to feel like you have to explain or defend your choices. Keeping family matters private allows you to handle things on your own terms without the pressure of other people's opinions weighing you down. Another reason to keep family matters private is the respect it shows for your family's privacy. When you open up about personal family struggles, you're not just talking about your own life, you're sharing the lives of others who might not want that information to be public. Family members have their own stories and experiences, and they deserve to have control over how much of that is shared with the outside world. It's one thing to talk about your own personal feelings, but when you start discussing the private lives of others, you risk crossing a boundary that could hurt them or damage the relationship you share. It's also important to remember that not everyone needs to know about your family's struggles. Sometimes we talk about family problems because we're looking for sympathy or validation. We want others to understand how tough things are, but this doesn't always help in the long run. Sharing family matters can sometimes create a cycle of negativity. When you talk about your problems too much, you can get stuck in a loop of focusing on the challenges rather than finding solutions. Keeping things private allows you to process and work through family issues without external distractions. Family matters can also be used against you. Unfortunately, some people use personal information to manipulate or control others. If you've shared intimate details about your family struggles, you could be leaving yourself open to that kind of exploitation. In a world where people can twist information and use it to their advantage, it's better to keep things to yourself, at least until you know that what you're sharing is truly safe. Keeping your family's private matters protected helps to avoid the potential for harm that can come when that information is in the wrong hands. Sometimes it's not about keeping secrets, it's about choosing to protect the sanctity of your family life. Some things are simply not meant to be shared with others. It's about showing respect for the people you care about by keeping their private matters private. Just because you're going through something difficult doesn't mean it has to be shared with everyone. Your family life is yours to handle, and you should have the freedom to choose how much of that is shared with others. It's a way of respecting your family's personal boundaries and creating a space where trust and privacy can thrive. Family matters are often tied to deep emotions, and when you open up about them too much, it can make it harder to process those feelings in a healthy way. When you talk about your family problems, it's easy to get lost in your emotions and lose sight of the bigger picture. Keeping things private gives you the time and space to reflect and work through the emotions that come with family challenges. Sometimes, the best way to heal and find clarity is to keep those feelings to yourself and focus on how you can resolve the situation. Family is one of the most precious things you have. The relationships you build with your loved ones are foundational to your happiness, growth, and well-being. But those relationships are also personal. Keeping family matters private isn't about hiding anything. It's about protecting what's sacred to you. It's about respecting your family's privacy and ensuring that the relationships you share remain strong and intact. When you keep your family matters to yourself, you're creating a space for healthy boundaries, mutual respect, and trust to grow. And that's something worth protecting. Number 4, acts of kindness. Acts of kindness are powerful, but they don't always need to be broadcast to the world. The most meaningful acts of kindness are often the ones that are done quietly, without seeking recognition or praise. When you perform a good deed, it should come from the heart, not because you want others to see it. The moment you make your kindness public, it shifts from being a genuine act to something that can be seen as self-serving. It's important to remember that true kindness doesn't need validation. In our world today, social media makes it easy to showcase every good deed we do. Whether it's helping someone in need or donating to a cause, there's often a temptation to share those actions for the sake of getting recognition. But kindness at its core should be about the person receiving the help, not about you getting credit. The more you talk about your good deeds, the less pure they become. It's easy to get caught up in the desire for acknowledgement, but that takes away from the real value of what you've done. The power of a kind act is often its quiet impact. It's the small gestures done without fanfare that have the greatest effect on others. When you help someone without expecting anything in return, that's when you're truly making a difference. When you talk too much about your kindness, it can sometimes diminish the impact you've had. People may feel like they're being used for your personal gain, or that your actions are not as genuine as they seemed. You might have meant well, but once the act becomes about you rather than the person you helped, it loses its power. Keeping acts of kindness private allows you to focus on the joy of giving, without the pressure of performing for an audience. Think about the times you've done something kind for someone, and it made you feel good, not because anyone saw it, but because it felt right. That's the beauty of kindness. It's a personal, internal reward that doesn't need to be shared to be meaningful. The act itself, regardless of recognition, brings a sense of fulfillment that no amount of praise from others can match. There's also something very special about doing kind things in silence. When you help without expecting recognition, you reinforce the idea that kindness is an intrinsic value, not a way to earn something in return. The more you talk about your kindness, the more people might start seeing you as someone who is always seeking validation. People may begin to question your true intentions. Are you doing this because you genuinely care, or are you doing it for the likes and compliments? When kindness is kept private, it avoids that scrutiny and allows the act to stand on its own. It's easy to think that sharing your good deeds will inspire others to act kindly as well. But the truth is, kindness is most powerful when it's personal and internalized. When you focus on your own actions and don't seek outside recognition, you create a ripple effect of kindness that isn't about impressing others. You never know who might be inspired by your silent example, but you can be sure that if you're always looking for applause, you might miss the real opportunities to spread positivity in your own quiet way. By keeping your acts of kindness private, you also protect yourself from the potential disappointment of not receiving recognition. It's easy to feel let down if you don't get the credit you think you deserve. But when you don't expect anything in return, you eliminate that possibility of feeling unappreciated. The beauty of doing something good without anyone knowing is that you're free from the need for external validation. Your kindness becomes a gift that you give to yourself as much as it is to others. Another reason to keep your acts of kindness private is to prevent the feeling of obligation that can come with doing something for someone. If you constantly make your good deeds known, people may start expecting you to always be the one who steps up to help. It can create a situation where you feel pressured to act kindly, not because you want to, but because you've set a precedent. This can lead to burnout and resentment, and it can take away from the joy of giving. When you keep your acts of kindness private, you maintain the ability to choose when and how you help others without the pressure of meeting anyone else's expectations. When you share every act of kindness you do, you risk diminishing the meaning behind it. True kindness isn't about making a show of it. It's about making the world a better place, one small act at a time. When you're not focused on the recognition, you begin to appreciate the subtle, everyday moments of giving. Whether it's helping a stranger, supporting a friend, or just being there for someone who needs you. Kindness is most effective when it's done with the intention of making someone else's life a little bit better, without the need for a reward. Acts of kindness, when kept private, can also protect your relationships. People may start to feel like they owe you something if you're always making your good deeds known. If someone feels like they're being helped with strings attached, it can create a sense of unease. They might begin to feel indebted to you, and that's not the kind of energy you want in your relationships. By not talking about your kindness, you allow people to feel like their needs are being met from a place of true generosity, not obligation. Kindness is a beautiful thing, and the more you practice it without the need for validation, the more you'll find that it becomes a natural part of who you are. It's easy to get caught up in the desire for praise, but it's in the quiet, unseen moments of giving that true change happens. Your actions, when done with genuine care, will have a lasting impact on others, even if no one ever knows you were the one who did them. By keeping kindness private, you create a world where the value of helping others isn't measured by how many people see it, but by the effect it has on the hearts of those you help. Number 5, biggest weaknesses. It's not easy to talk about weaknesses. They are personal, and sometimes they're the things we try to hide from others, or even from ourselves. We all have weaknesses, whether they're in our skills, our habits, or our emotional responses. Acknowledging them is important, but sharing them with the world doesn't always serve you. When you talk too much about your weaknesses, you risk not only lowering others' perception of you, but also reinforcing them in your own mind. In some cases, focusing too much on them can even hold you back from growth. There's nothing wrong with being aware of your weaknesses. The first step in overcoming any challenge is to admit it exists. But there's a fine line between self-awareness and self-pity. When you spend too much time discussing your weaknesses with others, it can come across as an excuse. It's as if you're looking for people to sympathize with you rather than to help you improve. Of course, everyone needs support at some point. But there's a big difference between seeking help and using your weaknesses as a reason for not achieving something. Talking too much about your weaknesses can also leave you feeling vulnerable in ways that are not always constructive. It's one thing to share something in confidence with someone you trust, but it's another to broadcast your flaws to everyone you meet. Doing so can make you feel exposed. You might think you're being honest, but it can make you appear weaker than you are, and that perception can stick. People remember the weaknesses you share, but they're less likely to remember the steps you've taken to overcome them. This can limit your potential and make others see you as less capable than you truly are. When you share your weaknesses, you risk people using them against you. Even if that's not their intention, once something personal is out in the open, it can be misinterpreted or manipulated. Weaknesses can be turned into talking points, and what you intended as an honest conversation can become ammunition in someone else's hands. This is why it's crucial to know when to keep certain things to yourself. Some personal struggles are better dealt with privately. The fewer people who know about your weaknesses, the less likely it is that they will be used in a way that hurts you. In a world that celebrates success, it's easy to feel like you have to prove your worth. That's why so many people are open about their weaknesses. They feel like being vulnerable will humanize them and make others relate. But the truth is, constantly talking about your weaknesses can overshadow your strengths. Instead of focusing on what you can do well, you're constantly pointing out what you can't. This undermines your confidence and over time can make you second-guess your abilities. There's a psychological aspect to this as well. When you continually speak about your weaknesses, you are reinforcing them. The more you talk about something, the more your mind holds on to it as part of your identity. If you're always saying how bad you are at something, then you're telling yourself that improvement is difficult, or that it's just something you have to live with. This becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your mind starts to believe that's who you are, which makes it harder to break free from those limitations. Instead of focusing on your weaknesses, shift the focus to your strengths. Everyone has areas they need to improve, but those areas don't define you. Your strengths, the things you excel at, are what make you who you are. When you keep your weaknesses to yourself, you protect your sense of identity and give yourself space to work on them in a more private and constructive way. Weaknesses are not something to be proud of, but they are a part of you. Instead of highlighting them, Focus on your journey of improvement. Everyone has struggles, but not everyone needs to hear about them constantly. Another reason to keep your weaknesses private is that not everyone needs to know about them. When you reveal too much, you're inviting others to judge and form opinions about you based on incomplete information. People may assume that because you've shared a weakness, it's something you can't change or overcome. They might start to treat you differently or question your abilities, and this can limit opportunities for growth. If you want people to see your potential, keep your focus on what you can do rather than what you can't. What you can achieve is far more important than what you're still working on. Talking too much about weaknesses also leads to unnecessary comparisons. People might begin to look at their own flaws and start feeling better about themselves in comparison to yours. But that kind of comparison doesn't help you grow. The focus should be on improving yourself, not on what others may or may not have in common with you. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses, and it's not helpful to compare yours to theirs. When you keep your weaknesses to yourself, you avoid opening that door of comparison and keep the focus on your personal growth. Sometimes, talking about weaknesses can be a way of seeking validation or sympathy. We all need reassurance from time to time, but there's a difference between seeking support and leaning on your weaknesses as a crutch. If you constantly talk about what you can't do or how difficult things are, you might find that others begin to view you as someone who is always struggling. While it's okay to ask for help when you need it, it's important to not make weakness your identity. Constantly discussing your flaws can lead to people treating you as if you're incapable, and that's the last thing you want. Keeping your weaknesses private also means you have the opportunity to work on them at your own pace. When you talk too much about something, you may feel pressured to address it faster or in a certain way. But working on your weaknesses is a process that takes time and effort. It's a personal journey. If you're constantly talking about it, you might feel like you're under a microscope, which can make the process of improvement more difficult. By keeping things to yourself, you give yourself the freedom to grow without the fear of judgment or the pressure to show immediate results. At the end of the day, weaknesses are just a part of being human. No one is perfect, and everyone has areas they need to work on. The key is to recognize them, address them, and then move forward. Talking about your weaknesses too much doesn't help you improve or grow. It only reinforces what's wrong rather than what's right. Keep your focus on your strengths, your growth, and your journey, and let your weaknesses remain something you're working through privately. That's the most empowering way to handle them. Number 6, past mistakes. Past mistakes are a part of who we are, but they should never define us. We all make mistakes in life, and that's a natural part of learning and growing. However, there's no need to dwell on them for too long or let them hold us back. When we keep focusing on our past mistakes, we risk allowing them to prevent us from moving forward. Constantly reliving these moments doesn't help us grow. It simply keeps us trapped in the past. The more you talk about your mistakes, the harder it becomes to break free from them. We've all made choices we regret, done things we wish we could take back, or missed opportunities that we'll never get again. But no matter how bad those mistakes seem, they don't have to determine your future. If you continually talk about your past errors, you give them more power than they deserve. It's important to acknowledge them, learn from them, and then move on. Discussing them with others too much can make it feel like you're never really letting go. It's like carrying around a heavy weight that keeps you from reaching your full potential. The key to growth is to recognize that mistakes are opportunities to learn. Each failure, each wrong decision, teaches us something valuable if we're willing to take a step back and reflect. But this reflection needs to be done with the intention of improvement, not self-criticism. The longer you focus on what went wrong, the more difficult it becomes to focus on what can go right. You start seeing yourself through the lens of your past mistakes, and that affects how you approach every new challenge. If you spend all your time thinking about what didn't work, you're not allowing yourself to embrace the possibility of success in the future. Talking too much about your mistakes can also prevent you from seeing the bigger picture. Life is full of ups and downs, and we all face setbacks. But just because something went wrong in the past doesn't mean it will happen again. Every day is a new opportunity, and the only way to seize it is by letting go of what's behind you.
Click here for part 2.